last couple of minutes. So I'm gonna get going. I want to welcome everybody. Thank you for taking the time this evening to excuse me. Sorry, I'm trying to get this to do what I wanted to do. All right. So just wanted to thank everybody for popping on. If you are familiar with Zoom, it's a little bit different of a setup. You will not be able to unmute yourself, ask questions. There is a question and answer box. That is typically where the chat box is. So you can ask a question that way. I'll try to answer them as I go, but I might not see it as I have a couple screens that I'm going to be sharing. So just to give everybody a quick overview, I'm going to go through registration requirements. I'm going to talk about our practice protocols, and then obviously I'll have time for questions and answering at the end. If we get to that, just so everybody's aware, although you're not going to be speaking, or your video will not be seen, this meeting is being recorded. We will post it on the district's website, as well as our social media, the ARRSD Athletics Facebook page. And this is not the mandatory preseason meeting that we typically have before each season. That meeting will take place on January 19th, which is 2 weeks from tonight. And the times will be announced out. It'll probably be more based off of the practice schedule for that particular day, and it'll make more sense once I start to talk about the different protocols and the different practice, the ways we're going to practice this year. So for those of you that are just seeking information, the season will begin on Monday, the 11th, with practices and tryouts. My plan is to have a practice schedule emailed out to those who are registered on Family ID by the end of the week. Still working out some logistics with who's practicing when and at what time. So you should be looking for something in your email as we get closer to the end of the week. It'll also be posted on our district athletic Facebook page, the ARRSD Athletics. So some of the requirements, and a couple of them are new, so I do want to take a minute to go over a few of them. Obviously, registering on Family ID is something we've been doing for years, so that needs to happen. All of these steps need to be complete in order for athletes to step onto the court this winter. And just another disclaimer, while we're talking, I know that we do have some hockey players that may be in attendance. A lot of the protocols that we're going to talk about are going to be geared around basketball, as hockey is a sport that is being offered as a co-op with Greenfield. So their protocols may be different than ours. So you should be watching out for any meetings that they may have. But if anybody is here that is interested in playing hockey, you should register on our Family ID, which the link is on the screen, and you should also register on Greenfield's. I have sent the names of our students who have registered already to their AD, and we'll continue to update them as we go. All right, so the kids don't return to in-person until the 18th. The kids are remote for the week of the 15th. This does not affect the tryout date. No, we are okay to begin practicing next week. Okay, so that's a good question. I'm sure a lot of people are wondering that. The second one is to make sure that your child has a valid physical on file. When you register on Family ID, I created an external field that I actually put in the date. And when you get within the 30-day window of the physical being expired, you get an email. With us, kind of everything, our lives have really been turned upside down here in the last 9 months or so. That paperwork gets lost. Sometimes it doesn't get sent to the school. So if your child does not have a physical, typically within a day of registering, you'll get an email saying that we don't have a physical. They can fax it, one can be faxed to the school. That's probably the easiest way. Okay. They can also bring in a hard copy of it to them to their first practice, but that is going to be one of the 4 requirements that they're going to need in order to be able to practice or try out on that first day. The last 2 are new this year. All students will need to complete the free online concussion course. I'm going to try to share how that looks here in a second. Let me have the right window open. All right. So you'll go to the website nfhslearn.com. Up here in the top right-hand corner, you'll need to, I've already logged in, but you'll need to either sign in or create a login. It's free. So students will create a login. It'll take them to what you see currently. This is the dashboard. But they'll go up here to courses. They'll click on it. You scroll, a good quarter of the way down the page. There's a bunch of different courses. The one that they're looking for is called Concussion for Students. Okay, they'll take that course. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes. There's some interactive videos. There's questions. But basically, what will happen is when they get to the end, okay, they'll be given a certificate. That's what I need. Okay, so you can either print it off and hand it in to your coach or myself on Monday. And the other way you could do it is you downloaded it. Once you complete the course, it has a window that pops up that allows you to download. You can download it, and then your child can email it to me. Okay, if all that fails, if you go back to your dashboard, okay, once you've completed the course, you go back to your dashboard, you go to My Certificates here, and this right here would be the certificate that I'm looking for. You would download it, and then your child would forward that to me. That's only for the students. Parents do not need to complete that that part of the requirement. Okay. Let's see, there's another. Tony, good question. So with the concussion course, that only needs to be completed once per school year. So if you played a fall sport and have already completed that part, you're good for the rest of this school year. Okay. Back to this. All right. So that's the number 3, the free online concussion course. The last one is a COVID questionnaire that we have adopted through use of talking with other schools. I believe I'm going to try to share the screen. This is the COVID questionnaire. There are a list of different boxes that you check off. Down at the bottom, parents sign it, student signs it, and they can turn this into their coach on the first day. This is something that even if you played a sport in the fall, you still have to complete it every year. There's been updates. Obviously, the CDC guidelines have changed since the fall sports in terms of quarantine time and all that stuff. So we try to keep it as up to date as possible. So this is something that you will have to turn in as well. As you've registered, you've been emailed this. If you haven't received it, please let me know. I will be sure to email it out again. I will most likely be emailing out the reminder for concussions and the reminder to complete this form to those people that I don't have it from throughout the course of this week, leading into next week. Where do you get that form? I email it to you. That's the first way. Second way, I do have a couple hard copies at the high school. If you're in the area, you can just pop in and grab one. But the easiest way to try to limit the number of people that we have going in and out of buildings would be to get it from me from email. So if you haven't received it to me through your email, please shoot me an email at some point. I can forward you a copy of it as well. Just make sure that you print it off and turn it in. So like I said, that's once per season, and then the concussion course, as we were asked, is once per school year. So once you've completed it, you're good. Okay. All right. So a couple things on physicals, because I know that there has been some information that's been out, not from us, but just has gone out. The public has made aware of. The MIAA and the Department of Public Health made it pretty clear back in August, I believe, that they're not going to recognize telephysicals. So while everything was shut down, that was one of the ways that people were still getting their physicals. They were doing it this way over the computer. Those will not be recognized. So they need to be an in-person physical. Their physicals are good for 13 months. You can either contact your school nurse or you can contact me, and I can let you know if you're unsure of it. So they need a physical in order to be able to step on the court on Monday. They cannot get to the doctor before Monday. Dr. Reeves is our school doctor, and he is available on Friday. This wouldn't take place anytime before 2 o'clock. And anybody who needs a physical from him needs to email me as soon as possible, so that I can set up a schedule to make sure that he knows who's coming in, give you some instructions on what to do before the physical, and then go from there. I will, if you do request to have a physical performed by Dr. Reeves, I'm going to send you the physical questionnaire. There's 2 parts to it, part A, part B. You as the parent need to fill out part A and sign the document, and then send that in with your child for the physical. Dr. Reeves fills out part B, he signs off on it, and that physical goes directly to your school nurse. Okay, you won't have to worry about it. He will recommend that you still see your doctor, but this will at least allow you to begin the season. If you've ever done it, we typically have done this before every season that we've had. All right, so I'm going to speak specifically about basketball. There are a great number of modifications. It's about 10 pages long. If you have not seen it, they can be found on the MIA website. I will also begin to send that out to people as we get closer to the end of the week. I'm trying not to bombard everybody with a bunch of emails, but it will be posted on the website. It'll be posted on our Facebook page. If you want to go look at it, go to the MIA.net. On that home screen, right in the middle there, you'll see a COVID page. Click on that, and then they have all the modifications, not only for basketball, but for any of the winter sports. They kind of all fall in line with each other, but basketball is going to be a little different because it is an indoor sport. All right, so as we begin, I'm gonna speak to practice protocols, and these will be things that we try to, or that we don't try, that we follow to the best of our abilities. Coaches are going to be given a little bit more work outside of coaching this year, given everything that we have to deal with. I will go over practice protocols for both high school and middle school. I do want to say this. I do want to say that there is a possibility that that we won't have a middle school season. So if you go east of Athol, none of those schools in Central Mass have middle school, are offering middle school programs. And a good majority of the teams in Western Mass are also not offering it. We are trying, okay? I want that to be clear. We are trying to offer a season for our middle school teams, our middle school students. But, we're one school trying to do it, and there's a couple schools that are, on the fence with either with their Board of Health, with a school committee, or even lack of interest. So any update on middle school basketball will be made by the end of the week. So I will let you guys know, but I'm going to go through everything as we are going forward. But I just want to put that out there that there is a possibility that we will only have varsity and JV. So practice protocols, this will be on the top of that COVID sheet that you'll fill out. But basically what we're asking is, if your child is sick, do not send them to practice. If they exhibit any of the signs and symptoms for COVID, have a temperature of 100 degrees or higher in the past 24 hours, they should not attend practice. They shouldn't be attending school. These are things that you, as parents, we've heard from the district throughout the school year. You will notice that one of the things that was asked, are we doing temperature checks every day? We are not doing temperature checks every day. That is something that is in the questionnaire that we're asking the parents and the athletes to do on their own. If you have any questions about that COVID protocol or any of the protocols, you can either ask them in the chat, or excuse me, in the question and answer, or you can send me an email and I can answer them that way if you'd like to, keep it private. So what we are doing is we are trying our best to minimize any exposure, potential spread of COVID amongst our students, first and foremost, coaches in our teams. Okay, so a lot of the protocols that are being put in place are guidelines that are given to us by the EEA, the MIAA, and or DESE. Okay, so what I've been tasked to do is to try to make things as safe as possible, so that we can ensure our students the opportunity to have a full season. Now I know it's not the full 3 months that we typically experience when it comes to basketball or the winter season, but that is our goal. Okay, and I think that if we are all diligent, we're all smart, and we're doing the proper things on and off the court, I think it gives us a good chance. One of the big sticking points, and those of you that have had children come into the buildings, we have to wear masks at all times. So from the time that your child arrives for practice until they leave and they're outside the building and away from everybody else, they will have to have a mask on. Okay, coaches will be advised to give several mask breaks during practices, during games. Students have the option to kind of, if they need one, to request one, and a coach will not deny that. Okay, it's kind of like a water break. We're not living in the 50s and 60s where water was taken away as a punishment. So we want to try to make sure that students are as comfortable as possible. Question was asked, not necessarily in this session, but previously, about the use of gaiters, and we are going to not allow gaiters. Any of the schools that we play against don't allow them, so when you go there, you can't wear them. And when it comes to basketball, from a safety standpoint, if you're wearing a gaiter that goes around your whole neck, and somebody grabs onto it, whether intentionally or not, you're potentially, you could do some damage to your face, your nose, your mouth, whatever it might be. So we're just trying to limit any potential injury. So masks, masks are going to be required. I recommend that when you come to practices or games, you have 3, 4, 5 masks available. Okay, if you had to do any physical activity or breathe heavy while wearing a mask, you'll know that they get saturated pretty quickly, and that can be kind of a nuisance. So they should be bringing several masks to practice, and those masks obviously should be taken home after practice every day and washed, and new ones brought. CDC says that a person can continue to test positive for up to 3 months after diagnosis and not be infectious to others. If a player falls in this category, when would they be able to return to play? They would be able to return to play based off of the guidelines. I have to switch windows, so bear with me for a second. I believe, and it's in the COVID questionnaire that you'll get what the exact guideline is, but I've got to find it so I'm accurate. So let me share this one. I'm hoping that this 5th bullet point down answers it. My athlete understands that they return to athletics after testing positive for COVID. And if they have quarantined for at least 10 days, their most recent COVID test was negative. Their symptoms are improving. They have been fever-free without medicine for 24 hours and have been cleared to return by school and their healthcare provider or the Board of Health. Okay, so that's what we're looking at in terms of when a child can come back. So basically what's going to happen is if we have a student athlete who tests positive, that information, I give the information to our COVID coordinator, Andrea Bishop. She'll be in touch with you. She'll go through all the contact. She'll begin the contact tracing. The likelihood that a team may have to pause activities for a time being is realistic in that case. You know, if we can determine that the player did not expose themselves to other players on the team, and it may be able to, you know, they may be able to resume activities. But for the time being, if we have a positive case, that team will pause activities until we're allowed to return back to play. I hope that, Nicole, I hope that answered your question. If it doesn't, please ask another one, or let me know. All right, so one of the big things with our protocols is there will be no locker rooms. Okay, student athletes will not have access to locker rooms before, during, or after practices or games. I'll speak to what happens when we're back in school and it's the practices right after school, because we have some ways to adhere to that. So when a student arrives for practice, they're going to have to be ready to go. They should have, you know, their shoes. Obviously, they'd probably be wearing 2 different pairs of shoes, which is totally fine, especially with the salt and the snow. And they should be ready to compete. They won't have access to that locker room to change. So they come from home, they're ready to go as soon as they get into the gym. They will not be allowed to enter the gym until there's 10 minutes before their scheduled practice. And the coach will direct them to come in. So what happens a lot of times is kids get dropped off, high school, kids get dropped off, or they you know, drive, park, they walk in the building. They're going to have to kind of just hang out outside, preferably in their car, away from the cold elements for that time period. So if a team's practicing at 3 o'clock, the kids won't be allowed into the gym until at least 2:50. Okay, especially in the event that they're practicing after another team. Okay, if they're the first team to practice and their coach is there at 2:30, they could let them in the building. But I think it's just better to practice, not showing up till at least 10 minutes before practice. Okay. So how are they enter and enter? Most of our students at the high school will enter through the side parking lot, the side door to the gym on the parking lot side. This is where they'll have to enter for practices. They won't be allowed to use the front door. They won't be allowed to use any other door. They must enter through the locker room where the boys and girls locker rooms are on the parking lot side of the gym. For students at ARMS, they'll all enter through the front of the building, the front doors, if they were going in to practice or school, whatever. When they go to leave, student athletes at the high school will exit the gym into the hallway and exit the building through the bus doors, which are down by our cafeteria. This is going to eliminate potential cross interaction between teams, between kids trying to come into the gym and kids leaving. So they're going to leave, they're going to go out through the bus doors. All of our students know what the bus doors are, but the coaches will be there to kind of help direct them. After we get going for the first day or two, I think it'll become habit for them when they go to leave for practice. I want to skip back. Obviously, there was with locker rooms not being available, the bathrooms are still available. Not the bathrooms in the locker room, but the bathrooms that are in the hallway. Those will still be available. So they can use them for bathrooms. I wouldn't recommend that they change in them because they're all open. So just want to make sure I point that out. When students at ARMS leave the building, they're going to go out the gym doors and they're going to actually exit. There's a door outside of the locker rooms where I believe the 8th graders currently enter the building and exit the building for school. That's where they would exit the building. So those of you who would be picking up a student at the middle school, that's where you can expect to pick them up, would be on that corner by the softball field where the locker rooms exit. And once again, coaches will go over this extensively as we begin. So there will be hand sanitizer available. Student athletes should, come into the gym, use it, and then they will have a kind of like, if you think of it as a classroom setting, they'll have like an assigned seat. So they'll go to their assigned area where they can put their belongings. They should be bringing a bag up, their clothes or their sneakers, some extra masks, water, whatever they might need for practice. So they would go to that area and then they would remain there until the coach says we're going to begin practice, or you can get up and shoot, whatever it might be. All of our practices are going to be no longer than an hour and a half. And it'll make a little bit more sense as to why we have to space them out a little bit more when I talk about the structure, especially for the high school. There was another question. Yes, Elaine, good question. So Elaine asked, will there be any type of sanitizing in the gym between practices? So one of the reasons why we're not letting kids in the building until at least 10 minutes before their scheduled practice is when a practice ends, any place the kid was sitting, all the equipment that was shared has to be wiped down. So that's going to be the coach's responsibility. So if my team's practicing, for example, we're done at 4 o'clock. I let my students or my team leaves. They leave out the gym. They're not going to be allowed to hang out, congregate, shoot around. They got to go. They got to get out of the gym. They got to get on their way. My job is then to go around to kind of where they were sitting and just kind of wipe it down. We have spray, we have wipes, and then there's hand sanitizer set up as the door as they leave the bus doors. So there's hand sanitizer there, so they could use some hand sanitizer on their way out of the building as well. For the middle school, we will have it set up so there's hand sanitizer in the building, or excuse me, in the gym, and they would probably use the same area to sanitize on the way out as well. I can try to set something up differently to limit the number of interactions there as they leave the gym, but I'm gonna have to go down and get it all set up before then. Yep, you're welcome. All right. Some other protocols. So I did say this, typically, I know I've been coaching for a while. At the end of practice, kids want to play, they want to shoot around, they want to work on stuff. We really do not have that luxury this year. It's not, this isn't my rule. This is from the guidelines from the EEA that the student athletes should not be congregating, and they shouldn't, be sticking around. Practice ends, they're going to be expected to leave the facility in a timely manner. Not going to, end practice, and a minute later say, get out. But they're going to, they're going to be given time to get out of the gym. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to have a schedule out for all the teams, the start and end of practice times, so that those students that need to be picked up can really plan accordingly. And we're going to really ask the parents and anybody who's giving rides to be cognizant of that. We don't want to have a situation where we have a lot of students waiting around for rides. If it's an issue, please send me an email and we can work on something. I don't want to have anybody outside in the cold, but I'm just going off of what the guidelines are. And I already talked about the coaches and what they're going to do. I'm not going to go through what the protocols are going to be for home and away games tonight. This is more of a question and answer and information session. I will go through those protocols though at our preseason meeting, which will be, I know it says January 19th at 6:30, but there's going to be 2 different times because how we're going to schedule practices. It's not going to work that everybody can be there at the same time. It will be virtual. It's the mandatory preseason meeting. It will be recorded and shared for those who have for those families that cannot attend. But I would plan on January 19th. I won't start them too early, but I want to make sure that I can accommodate as many teams as possible and not schedule you know, a 8:30, 9 o'clock meeting on a Tuesday night. The last piece of information that I have, so we're participating with Franklin County Schools. So that includes Marhar, Turners Falls, Pioneer, Franklin Tech, Frontier, Hopkins, Greenfield, Mohawk, and Athol. That's 9. Okay. Smith Academy would have been the 10th school, and their school committee voted to not play games. They're practicing, but they're not playing any games against any other schools. So there's 9 schools. So how the schedule is going to work, because I know I haven't put that up there yet. Games are going to be played on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Games are going to be played. So the boys team's at home, the girls team's away against the same school, and vice versa. When the boys are away, games are going to be played. Probably JV games will be played, or the first game will be played at 4 o'clock, and the next game being played at 5:30. Those may change. It's all depending on the availability of officials and some other, factors. But I know that in talking with some of the other schools, everybody's trying to live stream as many games as possible, and we are as well. In communication with AOTV, Josh Gabrinas is also, he's our IT guy at high school. He's going to work on live streaming games as well. So we're going to try to live stream as many games as possible, and we will make it known for the team. So if the girls teams has a home game against Greenfield, we will let I will have Coach Kaczmarczyk. I'll give her the information on how it's going to be viewed or where it can be viewed, and she will send that out to her team. I will also try to post it on our Facebook page as well. But we are starting the season with no spectators. So that'll answer Lori's question. We will not be able to watch the games in person. Anything will be, like I said, we're going to try to live stream as many as possible. It takes a lot of factors to play into that. Worst case scenario, the game would be recorded and uploaded to our YouTube page, but it might be the next day. But we're going to try to get coverage, as much coverage as we can on our games between AOTV, Josh, myself. I think we can pretty much cover as much as we can. All right, and that's not just an Athol high school, Athol middle school rule. That is, Marhar's not having any fans. Turners Falls, Greenfield, Hopkins, Pioneer, everybody kind of all on the same page when it comes to that. Will there be any type of senior night? We will do something for the seniors. I don't know what. I don't know how, but we will make sure that we have a recognition for those seniors for both the boys and the girls team. So that kind of ends my talking in terms of what I have presented. So if there are other questions, please ask. I will. Are the away? So. Are the away teams going to contact you? Yes. Yeah. So we kind of all made an agreement. I have another meeting with all those ADs on Friday. We won't bring it up again, but I think we're all on the same page in terms of we got to do what we can to give the parents the ability to watch their children as much as we can. And, we're in a situation where we have AOTV, other schools are using their local community access public television station, or some schools are going to do it the recording way and post it at a later date. But what we'll do is we will try to get it out in many different places as possible. I'll make sure that if a game's being live streamed, that the coach communicates with players, with the team, however they communicate with them. I know that for my team, I have a Facebook page. I'll just post it there. But obviously will still inform my players and their parents where they can watch the games. There was another question, but I didn't see it. What time are tryouts on Monday? I don't have an answer for you in terms of what time tryouts are. I will hopefully, like I said, I want to have it done sooner than later so that people can start to plan for it. But Friday being the latest in terms of what practice schedule will be like, and the tryout schedule too. So that will be sent to you guys via email. Those of you who are registered on Family ID, I can send out a quick email that way in terms of what time practice or tryouts are on Monday. And then as we go through the season, we're probably going to go on a week-to-week basis for practice schedules. So that will be something that will be emailed out to everybody either the Friday before or at the latest on Sunday. They're not all in order. So I'm not seeing any other. If anybody has any other questions, please ask now. All right, I'm not seeing anything come through. So I'm gonna wrap up the meeting. If questions come up, please email me. It's probably the quickest way to get in touch with me. If things change, which I think that's one thing I've learned through this whole process, is what happens today, or one thing today, and the next day it's something different. So if things change, I'll continue to update you. Like I said, really the big things are, and most of you are here because you received the link from Family ID. But what's on the screen now is the big thing in terms of what needs to happen in order for your child to potentially step on the court on Monday. And the big one being number 2 with the physicals. Need a physical. If they need one, I need to be contacted as soon as possible so that I can schedule it, set it up. Like I said, it will take place on Friday. Nothing before 2 o'clock. But I also, if we don't have anybody that needs a physical, I also have to give the doctor the courtesy of letting him know that he's not going to be needed. So I'm not seeing any new questions come in. So at this time, I'm gonna wrap up in the meeting. I said, if you have other questions for me, please send me an email. The message is we're gonna do our best to try to get through the season. And I think we all have to be diligent on and off the court in order to give us the best opportunity to have a successful season. So I thank everybody for coming. Have a good night and stay safe.